We are all just absolutely sick. Let's go through another game. Hey, you guys just want to talk about Diana Taurasi for the next half an hour?
That would be less sad than what we might have to
I
talk
mean, it
about.
would actually still be pretty sad.
Cool with me.
I'll tell you what, if you missed it, Steven and the PHNX Mercury squad, they broke down that breaking news earlier, but we are here for much more depressing things and much worse basketball. Welcome into the PHNX Suns pregame show, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. I'm Eric, Steven, Gerald, Noah behind the Mac, making all the magic happen. Speaking of all the magic, you guys are in the chat making that happen as well. Leo, Roderick, Optical Illusion, Desert Raider, Art and Booker Edix, Leo, Cameron, and everybody whose name I continue to mispronounce. Bubble Suns, Ty, Kara, Psycho Blue. And let's just start things off with a super chat from our friend Psycho Blue, $20 super chat on a pregame show. How about that?
Wow.
Says, Basketball Cthulhu thinks the greater Arizona media needs to point less fingers at the ownership and more fingers at the guys who oversee the day-to-day on-court operations. Elsewise, they wouldn't be disappointing. Just normal bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, though, I keep saying this. I feel like you could ask 10 different Suns fans what the biggest problem is with the Phoenix Suns, and you might get 10 different answers, and probably 8 or 9 of them would be correct. I think everyone bears their fair share of blame in why we are here. I think we also have to acknowledge that I don't think anybody saw this coming. I don't think anybody going into the season was like, yeah, the Suns are going to be on the outside of the play and looking in. That doesn't excuse the decision-making that's led us here, both on the court in terms of the people that are in the facility every day. Like, everyone bears their fair share of blame in why it has turned out this way, and it's been very unexpected. But you are right. I do think a lot of people are pinning a lot of the blame on Matt Ishbia, the aggressive owner, the new owner syndrome, all that stuff. And I do think to a certain degree, like, this is a collective in terms of the way that they make decisions. It's not Matt Ishbia pulling the strings and using James Jones and Josh Bartlestein as puppets. It's a shared failure in terms of why we are here. And for me, I'm a little bit more interested in how they pull themselves out of this summer. Yeah. But I do understand why, given where we are, there's going to be so much focus on how we got to this point.
Yeah, the digging yourself out of the hole, the proverbial hole that you got yourself into is going to be interesting. But this is like, I feel like discourse is just so out of control now.
It is.
You got stands going against stands. We got the proverbial finger, verbally being pointed at the wrong people at times. You got people that don't want to be informed. You got people asking Gerald to ask tougher questions when he's quite literally
they're right about that.
Like,
it is my fault.
Like, it's just, I just need everybody. Like, we should have, we got PHNX puffs. We need PHNX just meditation. Like, and it's just me sitting in with my legs crossed and just doing breathing exercises. Everybody, like, I feel like everybody needs breathing exercises, some stretching, a little bit of green tea, and just a woosah moment, because like everything is just so in dismay right now. And like, I understand that the level of basketball is not where it needs to be, and a lot of decision-making hasn't made much of any sense at times, but I think everybody just needs to take a step back and take a deep breath. I was hoping that's what the All-Star break would provide, but came out of the All-Star break and it just got like a times 20 multiplier to what already existed.
I think we got a little bit of a break, and we realized what life was like without watching this team disappoint us in front of us, and then came back from break, immediately lose. You're like, ugh. And then you beat the Bulls. You're like, eh. And then the end of the Raptors game, I think that was just the moment that everybody broke. And you know what? I don't blame everybody. And if we want to point fingers and send blame, I have one person that you can do it to. Okay, me. All right, everybody go at me. Okay, I said all summer I love the moves they made. I thought the Suns were going to be good. Over 50 wins. They were going to win the Pacific Division. Just blame me. Okay, can we not get into Stan fights on social media? Come on. Like, just blame me instead. I really don't care. We were going to talk about some Grizzlies stuff and some sound that you wanted to mention, Steven, and we are going to. I do want to mention, though, first, we have some people in the chat talking about it. New starting lineup for the Phoenix Suns tonight, because that is what Mike Budenholzer loves to do, which is change the starting lineup. Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. Okay, third straight game with that. Nick Richards. All right. Bull. In the starting lineup. Gerald, your initial reactions as Bol gets the nod over who was Royce O'Neal.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a little bit more size. It gives you a little bit more length. It's going to help you, hopefully, on the boards, having 3 7-footers. Kevin Durant is 6'9", but and that's good against a Grizzlies squad that is second in the NBA, and I think both second chance points and offensive rebounds. That's an area where they really hurt you last time. This group has yet to play together this season, so we're going to be seeing this 5-man lineup for the first time. Hopefully, this pattern of cycling through, we saw Royce O'Neal at that 4 spot. Now we're seeing Bol. Hopefully, that will lead us to Ryan Dunn in that spot if he continues to cycle through. But yeah, we're at the point in the season where it's worth trying different things. I still don't understand why Dunn is not part of the things that you are trying. But like we've been saying, Bol has earned an opportunity, and hopefully he makes the most of it out there, because this does provide you with a lot of length and hopefully ups the defense a little bit, even though we know Bol is prone to making mistakes on that end.
Yeah, there's no 3-player front court trio that can provide more size than Richards, Durant, and Bol.
Yeah.
And it was for that reason, in addition to just the decision-making process that we can deem from Mike Budenholzer, I felt like Bol was going to play a rather sizable, literally and figuratively, cog in his rotation for today. I didn't know he was going to start, but I knew he would play heavy minutes because of that need for size against a team that is playing players like Santi Aldama and Brandon Clark off the bench. Like, that's a lot of size to deal with outside of their starting front court pieces and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Zach Edey, who are as big as it gets in the front court across the league and starting lineup. So Bol has to bring it, though. And my primary question for this matchup still remains, though. Who's guarding Ja Morant? And naturally, it's probably Bradley Beal.
It is Bradley Beal.
And the question then is, okay, so if Bradley Beal is guarding Ja Morant, he's involved in every action that they run. And he is probably the only player on their rotation outside of Jaren Jackson inverted pick and rolls that runs pick and rolls. So that's a lot that he's going to be tasked with, because you're still going to need his paint pressure, his points, and his playmaking off of that.
Yeah.
You continue to overtask and overcompensate for not making what I feel like is the right decision and putting too much on a player's plate whose role has been up and down all season long.
And to kind of snowball off of that a little bit, Desmond Bane is a human bowling ball when he gets rolling. Who is taking that assignment? Because Book, I don't know that he has the strength to keep up. We know that the Suns struggle with guys that are movement shooters. Bane can obviously be a big threat as a spot-up guy. It feels like one decision cascades off the other here, and defensively, as much as they're going to have size down by the rim and in the front court, good luck stopping that Ja Morant, Desmond Bane backcourt with what you have out there.
Yeah, the Grizzlies provide a matchup problem for the Suns. That also feels like there's a coaching problem as well, i.e. the Memphis Grizzlies are a really well-coached team. Steven, there was something that Taylor Jenkins answered the other day that caught your eye.
Yeah, Taylor Jenkins is one of the smartest coaches in the league, the most articulate coaches in the league. And I think the ways in which we've seen him shift from what was his offense the last couple of years, which was very good, to now even better, it seems. And outside of a playoff showing to show what that process can really look like on that stage, they're in a good space. And he talked a little bit about it to Grizzlies media a couple of days ago.
Coach, you have a 6th ranked offense in the league despite running the fewest pick and rolls of any team. I was wondering if you could highlight how that's possible, and also how important Noah LaRoche has been on your staff to help establish those 5-out relocation principles that are working so well with your teams?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of what you just said, and it's a combination of our relocations and our movement. It's a combination of our pace and possessions. We talk about our 3 Ps: pace, principles, and possessions. And obviously we're trying to utilize a few more pick and rolls. It's all about advantage creation. How are we, a top offense or still striving to be one of the best offenses? It's all about where we can find our competitive edge. We wanted to see her going, hey, we've got to be different. We've got to look at our offense differently. We're shooting the ball better. We have better effective field goal percentage than we've had in the past. Quality of shots, we've definitely got to get better with our turnovers. As long as we just get a shot, we usually can have some success on the offensive side. But it's the speed at which we play, and we've definitely regressed in terms of our pace and how fast we're playing, but we still lead the league in that. That's our first advantage creator. Then when we get into the half court, it's our combination of our cuts, our drives, our off-ball screens, incorporating pick and rolls to just create the space that we want to take advantage of. But then our 5-guy movement patterns, we've kind of fallen off finding some rhythm there. But when we have 5 guys constantly moving together, you're constantly disorienting the defense. That's something that Noah's brought to the table, and it creates those easy kickouts for threes or dump offs on the inside. It just puts the defense in a compromised position where where the space is, where your outlets are, you have more confidence in the rhythm shots you're getting. And then we tackle the other thing that we've been successful at in the last couple of years is actually getting more guys to offensive rebound to build our transition defense and our full court defense. That's allowed us to create more possessions even when we do miss it. So it's a combination of all 3 of those things, staying consistent in it. That's the challenge right now, especially as we get into the grind of the season, is how can you still be the fastest playing, fastest moving, most collective, and most intense playing team. That's what we're striving for.
Hey, Coach.
Okay, I'm glad everybody acknowledged the lack of accuracy with the camera and being on the subject. But once you get past that part,
I don't know if they can.
Which is not, I understand it.
Yeah.
First of all, having a coach that speaks in such great detail, like that's one quote, but Gerald can attest to this, that you could break that up into like 8 to 10 different quotes with the different segments in which he got to the topic and from the question that was posed. So shout out to coaches that actually talk basketball when basketball questions are asked. We don't have that here in Phoenix right now. I'll leave
yeah,
that.
it was a gut feeling. Yeah, no. Bull could do some great things for us, and yeah, no.
I'll leave that for y'all to speak on. But the reason for bringing that video to the pregame, you can tell the difference between teams that have an idea of what they want to do, teams that know what they want to do, and teams that just have no clue. Now, though the Suns have some identifying markers where they can give them the ball and it's going to naturally look like things are being run, as a team comprehensively, they have not gone to those things nearly to the extent of a team that's trying to figure things out, or even more so a team like Memphis.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's a good segue into why we keep talking about Devin Booker needing to be an advantage creator, because he just gave a whole long spiel about how the Grizzlies function despite not running a lot of pick and rolls in the NBA. And the Suns aren't a high pick and roll team. They're not very effective in either facet with the ball handler or the roller, if you look at the percentiles on a points per possession basis for each of those two. But Steven, I wanted to pick your brain about this. What is it that differentiates the Grizzlies in that respect in terms of not needing to run a lot of pick and rolls? And is there anything in that the Suns can lean into, especially as it pertains to Devin Booker being kind of more of the initiator?
Yeah, for me, just in watching Grizzlies film and naturally watching the Suns 2-3 times over, it's so much to offense past just spacing. Like you heard Taylor mention spacing, but not the proverbial just you're standing here, you're standing there, the ball's here, and you guys are watching. There's never someone that's not in motion with their offense. So imagine Devin Booker is trying to run a pick and roll, and you got 2 players spaced to this side of him and then 1 on this side. Instead of that middle guy that's next closest to him standing there and clogging the space, giving him only 1 option of driving lanes, with the Grizzlies and their spacing template, someone's always cutting to remove help, which then creates space for the person that has the ball as well as the roller. So that makes what naturally is an advantage creator in pick and roll have that much more space and that much more options, which forces a defense to make that much more in terms of a volume of decisions. And when you make defenses make decisions like that, and your players are playing to the principles that you have established, the cutting, the moving, the ball moving, it starts to have like a harmony to it. And it's not scripted, so you can't necessarily game plan for it. And that randomness, in a literal sense, not just as a template, is a weapon. And that's why I feel like I was talking with Mark R in the chat last week about it. That's why I feel like the Grizzlies, they have the work cut off for them, but I feel like they're prepared for the half court in the playoffs because you just can't game plan for it outside of Ja Morant's pick and rolls.
And they're a terrible matchup for the Suns because defensively, how do you contain a team that's playing random with lots of movement off the ball and doesn't have a lot of these like set plays, pick and rolls? Talking, communication, switching, things that this Phoenix Suns defense not only has said they're not great at, like they're actively bad at, and that involved with transition, which is Memphis's bread and butter when it comes to their offense as well. One of the things that Mark R mentioned about a playoff doubt, but in the regular season can be a massive advantage for them to create. Fascinating stuff that both of you brought up. We're going to keep on breaking down this game. I do want to remind everybody, though, that I get to do this in pregame, too. Vroom, 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 vroom. Listen, NASCAR returns to Phoenix Raceway March 7th through the 9th, and join us as the stars of NASCAR battle it out for the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway. Nothing like witnessing a battle for the ages on a 1-mile oval raceway with NASCAR cars going 200 miles per hour. And if it wasn't just the actual track itself, which was exhilarating, it's also where this track is in the foothills of the Estrella Mountains. If you've never been before, just the drive up there alone is worth it. For it's like majestic. You just go up over a hill and all of a sudden there's like a coliseum in the middle of the mountains, and you can get your tickets right now at phoenixraceway.com. That again is the Phoenix Raceway Shriners Children's 500 March 7th through the 9th at phoenixraceway.com. Let's get into the injury report for tonight's game. The Suns looking for their first win over the Memphis Grizzlies. They are 0-2, this one on the road in the FedEx Forum. For the Suns, Cody Martin is still out with that sports hernia. Jalen Bridges is out. And Monte Morris is also out for the second consecutive game with low back soreness. Nobody that's been in the rotation recently, so the Suns essentially at full strength tonight. Cam Spencer out for the Grizzlies. I think lost in all of this, Gerald, of the Suns just being very depressing, is that it hasn't been an injury-related problem with them, and that makes it worse.
It does. It definitely does, because up until this point, and especially before this season, like last season, we could point to, okay, they won 49 games. They got swept in the first round, but a lot of that was due to the big three only played half the season together, and you could kind of bank on that, and hopefully next season they'd be healthier. Well, they weren't healthier this season, and now that even that they are healthy, it feels like this team has reached a point of no return. For a lot of people, I'm sure that Raptors loss the other day was kind of the breaking point. Not just, obviously, we knew weeks back that this team wasn't going to be contending for a title, but in terms of just even making the play-in, like this feels like a lottery team right now. So it is disappointing that injuries are not the main reason, like last season, that we can point to for this team not meeting expectations. And it's disappointing for me personally because I've had a Cody Martin breakdown article loaded up in the chamber for a while now. I need this man to get back on the court so we can at least have something different to talk about, some new piece that you can throw into the equation. And yeah, Cody Martin's not going to save the season or turn it around, but I would like to at least see what he has to offer before we reach the point in the offseason where you have to make a decision. Is he going to be on your team next year, or are you turning that into cap space?
Well, Steven, I think that while there is a downside to everybody being fully healthy and them sucking, I think the upside is you're not talking yourself into a team that wouldn't work well healthy simply because they were injured. Like, we know what this team is now. And if anything, it's giving you a clearer picture instead of, okay, Bradley Beal missed 75% of the season again, and we're just going to run it back again next year.
Yeah, that's probably the operative word that I came into this post All-Star break stretch assessing the team from, and that's clarity. Whether they right the ties, whether they plateau or maintain where they are, or they get worse, clarity. And that clarity should give them credence to make whatever decisions it is come summertime.
Let's see what we're seeing clearly tonight. No be calm before it. Let's take a look at our score predictions for Suns Grizzlies round 3. Everybody going with the Grizzlies. Espo by 18. I'm by 8. Gerald, you're much closer to Espo. 15. You think it's a blowout?
I do. I think the games between the Suns and Grizzlies have been closer than expected, and I think the Grizz had one game where they were injured in that. So I think full strength tonight for them. With the way the Suns are playing right now, I'm not anticipating a bounce back.
Stevens, Suns still losing, but only by 2.
Yeah, I've like for everything that we just got done speaking to with the Grizzlies and their offense on the season as a whole, they have not had the most success after the All-Star break. Now, granted, that could be because of some of the teams they've gone up against. Orlando, the Clippers, the Cleveland Cavaliers, 3 of the best defenses in the league. But they just haven't had their footing on that end of the court. And I feel like that's something the Suns can poke at because their defense obviously is their weak point. If the Grizzlies' offense isn't where it's expected to be, that's something that can kind of make for a matchup. And I feel like if the Suns are scoring the ball the way that they can, and I know that Kevin Durant is going to come out on a mission after the lackluster scoring showing that he showed in Toronto, I think that's enough to make this game interesting. But as we all know, things sound good with this team, but they have to go out and actually show it.
Well, Gerald, you mentioned the games against the Grizzlies being closer than expected. It wasn't the fact that the Grizzlies didn't go up big in those games. It's that the Suns fought back, you know, and clawed back into it, and it just wasn't enough. And we'll see if they can maybe not fall to as big of a deficit in this game, but it's never a matter of on paper can the Suns compete, because the answer is always yes. It's whether or not they actually do compete that night. Let's see what Bet365 has to say about tonight's game. Let's take a look at the line. Suns +7 spread on the road, +220 on the money line. At home, Memphis is a -270 on the money line and a -7 on the spread. So let's get into our pregame picks presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus and physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Let's start how we always start, taking a look at Espo's bet, a.k.a. the loser's bet, because he's in last place. Still, he has Bradley Beal at 25 plus points, Kevin Durant at 25 plus points, and Devin Booker at 25 plus points, all at a plus 1,100.
I'll take that for them to win tonight.
Yeah, at least.
At least for sure. Let's take a look at my bet. You know, I'm, in the negative, but still somehow in first place. And I just decided to say, screw it.
Let's
today.
go.
All right. And it's funny, all of that, and it's still only a plus 5,000.
I was about to say, where are the rest of the O's at?
Yeah, I don't know, really. Jaren Jackson Jr. over 29.5 PRA. Santi Aldama over 20.5 PRA. Jaren Jackson Jr. over 2.5 stocks. Jalen Wells over 1.5 3-pointers made. Devin Booker over 7.5 assists. Mason Plumlee over 1.5 points for the whole game. Suns points total under 128.5. Jaren Jackson Jr. over 5.5 rebounds. Bradley Beal over 7.5 rebounds and assists. A lot of low standard things getting me at a plus 5,000. Steven, I'm sure you have a 2-leg parlay for a plus 20 million.
Hey, stay tuned. We're going to find out right now. I got
Yeah,
Kevin Durant at over 34.5 points for this game. I have Devin Booker over 7.5 assists. Nick Richards scoring over 2.5 points in the first quarter. Triple J scoring over one or having 1.5 rebounds brought in this first quarter. And then the last one, Bradley Beal, has been scoring the ball well for this team. They need it tonight. Over 22.5 points, all for plus 17,000.
Nice.
That's a pretty big number. We'll see if Steven hits his bets. They always look good, but unfortunately they don't always hit. We do have a couple more super chats. Huh?
That sounds like the Suns.
Amen to that. Steven is the Suns. You heard it here first. Not to be outdone by Psycho Blues, $20 super chat. Teddy drops a $20 super chat in pregame. Thanks, Teddy. I don't know how much money you make, but my Lord, you're dropping these super chats. High roller, Teddy. KD averages 18 field goal attempts this year. Since the break, he's been under 16 each game. He hasn't gone 3 straight games below 18 all year before this. Is it possible one of the changes Bud wanted to make was to intentionally use KD less? Well,
maybe. I don't.
I mean, the same guy who sat down and decided Ryan Dunn wasn't going to be in a 9-man rotation might have also made the decision to use Kevin Durant less. I guess it's on the table.
Could be. I think maybe part of it is just that adjustment of taking Tyus Jones out of the lineup and putting Bradley Beal into the lineup. And not to say that's an excuse for it. I know Kevin Durant has talked about he doesn't want to be taking more than 20 shots a game because he feels like if he is, he's being overused or he's taking too many shots or he trusts his teammates with the attention that he gets. But I would like to see him ticking a lot closer to 20 as opposed to less than 16 or whatever that was. So Steven, what have you been seeing? Because I know we've talked about they've gone stretches where, like the first quarter the other night, it just felt like, are we using KD as a decoy? Like, what are we doing here? Why are we not getting him the ball a little bit more?
Yeah, and a handful of the games since the break, it's felt like they've used him more as a trigger to get the gravity shifting from the defense, and they've certainly seen an uptick in the volume of passes made. A lot of those coming from him at times. So some of it is the way they've used him on offense to start like an action, to start an advantage. Some of it is the way defenses have guarded him, sending double teams inevitably. And then the other piece of it, to your point, is Bradley Beal being in the starting lineup. Bradley Beal is playing a lot of minutes since he got into the starting unit. And that means that's coming with more shots for him. And that's not in a negative way. That's because he's scoring the ball. And they've needed his rim pressure and the shots that come from that for their entire shot profile. So it feels like a culmination of all three of those things. And actually, if someone else is shooting the ball more and scoring more, someone's going to have to lose some shots. And it feels like it's been KD for the last couple games.
It shouldn't be, though. That's the thing. It has been,
but
it shouldn't
disagree with
be.
that. I definitely don't. But to Gerald's point, when you add a new lineup, there's a lot more thinking involved with that at times. And if someone's hot, KD's going to be the first to concede to the hot hand because he trusts the offense.
And I'm very worried about what that's going to look like tonight, especially if they start with Beal being the initiator, because we've seen the Grizzlies top block both KD and Book pretty frequently, and we've seen the Suns struggle to just get the ball to their guys with entry passes. So if Beal is having to make decisions, we know the Grizzlies are a top 8 defense as it is, and they're top blocking Book and KD off the ball. You need to start some of your possessions with the ball in their hands, get them a ball screen, and let them kind of go from there. Because doing what you did early against Toronto and Chicago against this type of defense, you're going to be regretting it pretty early on if you do.
This is the best team they faced post All-Star break, and they haven't looked that great post All-Star break, so they're going to need to step it up big time. Art and Booker edits with a $4.99 super chat says, whenever we win versus even a decent team, the Suns make us feel like we own the world, and that's just embarrassing.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've had one of those.
Gerald and I were literally going through the Suns schedule before this, and Steven, between today and the game at the end of November when the Big Three returned, they beat the Lakers and they all played under 30 minutes but scored really well. Including that win, the Suns have had 3 wins that Gerald and I deemed good wins. That one, Christmas against Denver, and the 25-point win against the Warriors at the end of January. All of those a month apart from each other.
Yeah.
And didn't the latter two not see one of the Big Three involved in them?
I believe so. But here's the thing. End of November.
Yeah.
End of December. End of January.
We're due.
It's February 25th.
We're due.
It's time. It's time. We have another super chat from Justin. First super chat on stream. Thanks, Justin. $10 says, when we're in the offseason and living the awful reality of this team trying to blow it up, can we at least get the Lindsay Trade Machine Tuesday jingle to bring some joy? I don't know if we can bring that one back fully, but we are going to be diving into Trade Machine Tuesday. Maybe we'll have to get some like written permission or something to license it.
We'll have something for you.
We'll have something for you. Trade, trust me. If you think that we're going to be able to get through an off season without hitting up that good old trade machine, Gerald already has the bookmark back on his bookmarks tab after taking it down a month ago.
That was my whole like November through January, and I'm going to get like 2 months off before I'm right back at it again. I hate it here.
Sean asking us for a prediction. Time and quarter will we call time of death tonight? When do we throw our hands up and say the Suns just got smoked?
Third quarter.
I said Memphis by 2, so
yeah,
fourth quarter,
he's in it.
45 seconds left.
I think Memphis is up by 15 with 6 minutes left. The Suns cut it to 2, lose by 8.
Okay.
That's the prediction.
Yeah, okay.
We'll see if it's right. Shout out to Optical Illusion, Humble Rumble, Sean, B. Will, General Freddie, Michael, Ashley, everybody who's in the chat hanging out with us. Those of you who dropped pregame super chats and everybody who's going to come back and hang out with us after the game right here on PHNX Sports. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button as well. We don't set like goals on the pregame show, but that doesn't mean you don't have to hit that like button. You can follow us all during the game at PHNX_Suns. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY, and we might all cry, but we'll do it together in just a couple of hours right here on PHNX Sports.
We all silly like the mayor.